How's it going, everybody? Tim from Tim's Tech Blog here, and today we are in San Francisco, Fort Baker to be exact, on this kind of cloudy, rainy day, and we're out here testing the X-PRO2 by Fujifilm. Now, I gotta tell you guys, this is one of my favorite cameras that I own to date. I haven't ever really shot with Fuji, and I never thought I would, but what intrigued me about the company was that they make cameras, or what I've read online and seen, is that they make cameras made for photographers. What does that mean exactly? I don't know, but I can tell you that this X-PRO2 is really fun to shoot with. I think a camera should be a piece of gear, but also be an extension of you and your creativity, as cheesy and as cliche as that sounds, but this camera definitely fits that bill. Now, if we kind of go through some tech specs of it, up from the X-PRO1, it's got a 24 megapixel sensor inside of it, an X-Trans 3 that sports some phenomenal colors and great image quality. ISO is up to 12,800, shutter speed's up to 1/8,000th of a second. The video quality's up, and really everything is up on it. The body is now weather resistant, and the biggest takeaway that I have with this camera body is the integration of the joystick here. That reminds me of my Canon 5D, and I loved having that on there. That way I can choose my autofocus points really quick and easy. It reminds everybody of the old film cameras, right? It's a rangefinder style, and coupled with the 35mm f2, it completes the whole weather sealed system, and it's really cool. So what we're gonna do is kind of just cruise around the Bay Area here, taking pictures of everything, and then I'll just give you guys my thoughts as I'm taking photos. So again, this video is not going to be super technical in terms of like taking photos and picking them apart, although we might do that. I don't know, actually it's not going to be super technical right now, but what we will do, is focus on the shooting experience with this camera. I'm big into how cameras feel in the hand, and I can tell you guys already that this camera feels great in hand. I'm looking through the viewfinder here. I can see everything nice and bright. I didn't own an X-PRO1. I don't know really much about it, but I can tell you that compared to other viewfinders that I've seen, this one is very bright, very capable, very responsive. The refresh rate is great. I can see exactly the photo that I'm getting when looking through here. Again, the little joystick on here and being able to move the focus points is a huge plus. Not only that, but the shutter sound on this camera sounds really cool. Here, I'll let you guys hear that real quick. Sounds awesome. But again, this camera, the times that I have used it, and here's Lauren right now. Say hi, Lauren. The times that I have used it, it's really quick and very responsive. And that's exactly what you need with a camera, especially if this is going to be a camera that you use for weddings or portrait photography, and I'm really into it in that regard. It's a perfect traveling camera. But look at this thing's not even that big. It's got the 35mm f2 on there, fully weather resistant, but we were out filming earlier and we took this thing in literally rain, and it was pouring on it, and as you can see from this footage right now, it's drenched. It's absolutely drenched, and it's still working just fine as I'm using it right now. So that's a huge plus. The weather resistance and the full magnesium alloy body is very welcoming. I mean, this camera weighs practically nothing. Having it strapped around my neck like this, it's really comfortable. I feel like I could walk around all day and not have it kind of wear down on me. It's perfect. I think this camera has 273 autofocus points. I'm only using maybe 70 of them right now. I have it switched to that, and when I use the joystick, it only groups them. So I don't need that many autofocus points, although it's a really welcomed addition. But for me and the style of shooting that I have, I don't need that. But it's nice to know that it's there for sure, because you can really get in there and fine-tune your autofocus points. But as I'm shooting right now, having the aperture dial on the lens, I can see it changing my f-stop. I can see where my ISO is at. Man, I can see my autofocus points hitting. It's awesome. Such a fun shooting experience with this camera. Feels great in the hand, and that's how it should be. So here's a quick overview of the hardware of the camera. You got your ISO dial right here, which is actually kind of finicky to be completely honest, but you basically lift up on it and turn it to select your ISO. I don't ever do that because it feels kind of funny, but it's not very practical. You have your shutter speed dial right here as well. I do use this, that's pretty cool. And the neat thing is you don't need to keep this constantly pressed while you're turning it. However, if you turn it into, or if you go over to automatic, that's when it locks it for you so it doesn't get knocked around. You have the exposure comp dial right here, which is nice. On-off switch, threaded shutter release, a function button right there that controls the video recording. Along the front, the autofocus modes, manual focus, continuous, and single point. The EVF switch right here, which also, I forgot to touch on that, but shooting, let me do that real quick. But shooting through the viewfinder, you have two options. You can do like an electronic viewfinder, or you can do an optical viewfinder. The optical viewfinder is a little bit funny to me. I haven't gotten fully used to it yet. It's interesting because with a 35mm lens, you can see like the lines of the frame that you're shooting, but it changes depending on how close you are to your subject or where it's locking focus on. So having the optical viewfinder is very, very nice because you're obviously just seeing straight through the camera, and there's no lag time, there's nothing. But it gets hard because it takes some getting used to. So like 98% of the time, I'm actually just using the electronic viewfinder. It goes to up to 1.6 million dots on it, so it's a much more higher def screen on the back. The joystick, which is awesome, I use that all the time. Buttons have moved from the left side just to right here versus the X-Pro1, which basically gives you one-handed operation between your whole exposure triangle down to the functions that you need of the camera, which is really, really awesome. The buttons feel great. They've got a nice little clicky feel to them. You can hear that. The little dials on the back right here do feel a little bit funny. They kind of feel dampened, and there's not a lot of feedback to it. That's just one little minor call out, but definitely not a deal breaker. You have the diopter adjustment right here, which is huge for people that have glasses because it allows you to move that in and out. Nice little flappy door right there that's weather resistant as well for your HDMI, USB, it looks like headphone port. Oh yeah, you get dual card slots now. That's a huge feature of this camera. So that works in a myriad of different ways. You can have it spill over once the one card fills up. You can have it spill over to the second card. You could have it as a backup basically. You can shoot RAW on one, JPEG on the other. And slot number one is the high speed card slot. Weather sealed with a card door, and it's nice and solid feeling versus the X-Pro1, so I've heard. And that's pretty much the outside of the camera. What do you think? Looks cool? It's got a super throwback retro feel to it. Definitely a conversation piece when you're out shooting with people. They like the way it looks. Fujis are pretty much known for the color reproduction that they have. Fujifilm obviously made film, so they have a lot of that analog put into the film simulations that they have going on in the Fuji X-Pro2. For example, I commonly use, or most oftenly use, the Velvia Vivid and the brand new actually Acros filter with the red filtering on it. So the black and white Acros filter is brand new to the Fuji system, but I use mostly the Velvia with a little bit of grain effect on it. And the fact that you can do that in camera, and the JPEGs that come out of the Fuji X-Pro2 are amazing. So a lot of people kind of go toward Fuji, I think because, or the reason why I picked it up was because I heard so many positive things about the JPEGs coming straight out of the camera. It took very little editing after the fact, you know, it's straight to camera, straight to the internet. It's really, really powerful and really, really cool to have such a small camera produce 24 megapixel stills that have amazing color reproduction that look very film-like. So as you can see, we're out here at the beach taking pictures of strangers while having these crazy film reproductions right now. And it looks really, really, really good. Another thing that I wanted to kind of touch on while I go over here is Wi-Fi. So this camera has built-in Wi-Fi. So I can take photos on the camera and go straight to my iPhone, and then from there go straight to Instagram or Facebook or my website, wherever really. Man, you guys should see these photos right now. Again, really what I wanted to emphasize was the fact that the Fuji colors are one of the main reasons why I went to this camera, because they're so awesome coming straight out of the camera to JPEG. So there are a bunch of different reasons why I got this camera. Too many that I can even list off right now, but here are my top three. Number one is the form factor. This thing looks great. It's retro styled, it's rangefinder style. I love the inconspicuous side of it, how you can kind of go out in the streets and just take photos of people without them really knowing what you're doing. It's not like a big, huge camera that's in their face. Number two is the colors, and the fact that this is 24 megapixels, there's very, very little editing that I need to do when I'm using the colors that come out of this camera. And I love that about it. It's so awesome. It takes you back to old film, and everything just looks great. Punchy colors, contrast, but just poppy. Really, really cool. Something that I can't really explain, but hopefully throughout this video you've been seeing that and kind of get a better idea of it. Number three is the Fuji brand. Fuji makes cameras for photographers, and I hear that time and time again, but they really do. Everything from when I take a photo to when I move the joystick or the focus points away and then I click the center button, it goes right back to center. That amount of detail to the small things really show us that they're making these cameras because they want you to go out and shoot, and they don't want software or hardware to get in the way of it. Everything is right-handed accessible. Your exposure triangles are all up right here. All the buttons make sense where they're laid out. The menus make sense. The camera's very fast. It's very responsive. So for all those reasons, that is why I love the Fuji system, and I'm a big time fan of it. So thanks a lot for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments, drop them down below. You can follow me on Instagram @TimAllDay, on Twitter @TimsTechBlog, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. Talk to you later. Recording number 12.